So the first thing when I start reading a paper, I'm open-minded. You know, I have no predisposition or sense about whether it's going to be good or bad. I'm looking forward to it being good. I'm hoping it's good. The first thing that I'm reading, I'm starting at the beginning. It's the introduction. The introductory paragraph it's not necessarily a predictor. You can have a really good introductory paragraph and things can go downhill, but a good introductory paragraph is a very satisfying thing to read because it tells me a number of things. There is some kind of argument or thesis, or the student is making the case why the topic matters. The student is telling me what the paper is going to be about, like what are the parts of the paper. The introduction is well written. It's got correct grammar and syntax, correct spelling. If needed, the student has cited their sources. And it might even be creative, and that's a really nice thing where there's some interesting writing. The introduction should pull me in. So as I continue to read the paper, I'm thinking about the prompt for the paper. I'm thinking about what did I ask students to do? You know, and I usually have both open on my screen. I have my assignment open, and then I have another section of the screen which is the student paper. And I'm always double checking because I don't necessarily trust my memory. My papers have multiple parts. So I'll read my own handout and I'll refresh my memory before every paper. Say, okay, you gotta look for these things. And then I'm looking for them. And being the professor, I know that there's a certain order that often works better. There's a certain organization that is sort of logical, and I try to lay out the guidelines for my papers in that logical order so that if students just follow it, they're going to have an organized paper. And I tell them that. I tell them, I'm trying to show you what it's like to outline a paper. My handout is an outline. If you follow it, you'll have an organized paper. So I'm looking for a logical sequence. There's a way that you build an argument. There's a beginning, middle, and end. And there can be more than one way to do that. But there are also ways to do that wrong, where the information is kind of scattered everywhere and it isn't clear what the student is doing with information. It doesn't build up well. So a good paper follows, there's some evidence that the student thought about what order would make sense here. And it's like building blocks. It's like you wouldn't build a pyramid starting with just a tiny block and then try to put a big base over it. You have to have a big base and then you can build on that. And somehow a good paper does that. It starts and it builds and it builds and it builds. And then within each paragraph, there's also structure, and I'm really aware of that. As I read, I automatically can tell that the paragraph has a topic sentence, and that topic is the next topic in the paper, and that it's a sensible next topic. And then that paragraph is going to speak to that topic. And so a poor paper doesn't. A poor paper has a topic sentence, and then the student doesn't know what to do next and gets distracted and brings in material that isn't relevant to that topic sentence. And now we have lost the argument. So a good paper, the paragraphs go in an order that makes sense. Within each paragraph there's a topic sentence, and then there's information in the paragraph about that topic, and then there's some kind of conclusion to the paragraph that leads to the next paragraph. So when it all progresses well like that, and it's well written, and the student has proofread, and it's spelled correctly, and there are citations, and the data is fairly recent or recent enough, you've got a good paper. And then you get to a conclusion that kind of restates something important, an ending, and a bibliography where everything is properly laid out in an acceptable bibliographic form, and that's an A paper.